Salve Discipoli. This is a review, for many of you it'll be a review, on first and second declension and also first and second conjugation. The first thing that you must remember when you're trying to figure out what declension a noun or adjective is, or what conjugation a verb is that the second principal part is magic. So let's just go through real quick how these work. If you're looking at a noun in the glossary and you have the glossary entry and the definition of the noun, if you see that the second principal part says AE, then you have a first declension noun. It doesn't matter what the first principal part says, and it doesn't matter what gender it is. If the second principal part says AE, it's a first declension noun. The same with if it says long I, it's a second declension noun. It doesn't matter whether the first principal part ends in US or R or UM or any other combination of letters. If it ends in long I, it's a second declension noun. What about adjectives? Well, for adjectives, you're going to look at all the principal parts. The first and second declension share an adjective, and these have an us, a, for their principal parts. So those are really easy to spot, like magnus, magna, magnum, or longus, longa, longum. Sometimes they also have a, like noster, nostra, nostrum. All right, what about the conjugations of verbs? Again, really easy. Make sure you're looking at the second principal part. If the second principal part has a long A, R-E, very, very infrequently it could be a short A, it's a first conjugation verb. If it has a long E, R-E, it's a second conjugation verb. It's as easy as that. But what about the gender? Shouldn't I pay attention to the gender? Yes, because you'll have to match nouns and adjectives, make them agree. However, for verbs, it really doesn't matter because verbs don't have gender unless your verb's a participle, but that's another video. I just made that video for Latin 3. If you're curious, you can head over there. For nouns, it also doesn't matter when you're figuring out the declension. Don't worry about the gender if you're just trying to decide what declension something is. If you're trying to match an adjective to your noun, you need to know the gender. But right now, we're just talking about figuring out what declension it belongs. Don't worry about the gender. Really. I promise, when you're trying to decide which declension something is, the gender doesn't matter. For the adjectives, you're going to get a chart with all the genders, so you're just going to make it agree with the noun, because adjectives have to be able to use all the genders. So it matters if you're matching a noun, but it doesn't matter other than that. Okay, so why does it matter that I know what declension my noun or adjective is? Why does it matter that I know what conjugation my verb is? So here's the deal. You need the correct chart to figure out what an inflection is doing, whether it's an inflection on a noun or an inflection on a verb. And because we have those families, like we saw in the last video, the charts are based on those families, verb families being called conjugations and noun and adjective families being called declensions. If the charts are based on the families, then we have to have the right chart for the Latin to make any sense. Otherwise, you might think that the inflection means something completely different than it actually means. So if you have the right chart, you're going to be happy, because even if you don't remember every single thing that everything in that chart does, you can look it up. But if you have the wrong chart, you're going to get the wrong information. Here's some practice for you to try. Go ahead and pause this and see if you can tell which declension these words are. There's no grade, it's just for your practice. Again, here's some practice with verbs. What conjugation are these verbs? This isn't for a grade, it's just for you to practice. All right, this you must do. So before you come to class, if you haven't already memorized the charts for the first and second declension and the charts for the first and second conjugation, and some of you have totally memorized those. For those of you that haven't, you must At any time, be ready to access those charts at a moment's notice. I should be able to ask you in class, in the hallway, in the grocery store. You need to be able to tell me what declension a noun or adjective it is, what conjugation a verb is, and also be able to access the chart that will give you the information you need instantaneously. So how could you do this? Get your textbook, put sticky notes in the purple pages marking where the charts are, or gather your orange cheat sheets from last year. And be prepared to meet your destiny. I speak the truth, friends. This is a skill that you have to have. These are resources you have to have for the upcoming quizzes, which are going to ask you to apply this information rather than just repeat it back to me. All right, it's been real. I'll see you guys in class. Hope you had a good long weekend.